Hello, and welcome to my Pico 8 game, Soul Survivor. I finished this a couple months ago, and I wanted to make a video about it here because with the limitations of Pico 8, you often don't have enough room in a cartridge to include instructions or a tutorial in the game itself. So I thought this would be a nice way to sort of show off the game and some of the things that you can do in it. This is currently available to play. It's up on my itch page at nebulousgames.itch.io. Soul Survivor is a turn-based artillery shooter similar to Scorched Earth or Worms, but with orbital mechanics. And unfortunately, another limitation of Pico 8 and my own limitations as a programmer is that there's no online multiplayer and there's no enemy AI. So if you want to play against another person, they have to be physically present in the room with you. Or you can play against yourself, which is a lot of fun too, and I recommend giving it a try. I'll come back to the options later, so for now, let's just launch into the game. You have two teams of 4 planets each, Team Blue and Team Orange, and the goal is to obliterate all of the other colored planets. You can aim by pressing left and right, and up and down increases or decreases the amount of power that you're shooting with, which is represented by the little aim dots that extend out from your planet. There's also a shot clock in the upper left-hand corner, and if that expires, then it switches to the other team. The weapon that you start with by default, I just call the nuke, and you can see in the upper right, you have that selected, and you get an unlimited number of these, which is what the U stands for. And then to fire, you just hit X. You'll see that it's affected by the sun's gravity and the planet's gravity to a lesser extent. And you just aim and try to hit the other planets. Different colored suns and the sun's size also affects how strong the gravity is. And you get a feel for the different sun's gravity once you play a few rounds too. Just hit this guy since he's right next to me. And you go back and forth like that. You can also select from several other weapons, and to do that you can hit O on the controller or Z on the keyboard, and that will take you into weapon select mode. And you can see this also shows a small health bar for each planet, and that can help you make some tactical decisions too. And then when you're in this mode, you can select up and down to choose other weapons. And the selected weapon and its ammo account appears in the upper right there. So you have 5 weapons to choose from, and I'll just go through these one at a time. The next one is what I call the Quantum Bomb, and this is an area of effect weapon. So to use it, you press X to launch it, and then X again to detonate it. And if you don't fire it directly into the sun, it works like this. Let me see if I can do it better. There we go. So X, let me select it again. Hit X, and there you go. And this is the strongest weapon if you can detonate it very close to the planet without impacting it. If it hits the planet, it will still do damage, but it'll be somewhat less than the nuke does. So by detonating it close to a planet, you can get a little bit more damage out of it. And it's also good for if you have a couple planets that are right next to each other, you can hit multiple ones at once. So I'm actually aiming for the orange planets, which are on my team on the other side of the sun, but just to demonstrate. So that'll impact all the planets that were in that blast radius. Next is the MIRV, and this has multiple independent warheads. After a few seconds, it'll split into 5 different ones, and then each one will continue to orbit around until it hits something where it explodes. So that looks like this. So I got off a couple good hits there. And each one of those warheads is a little bit weaker than the nuke, but since you get a bunch of them, you can use them tactically in different ways. You can either hit like a cluster of planets, or you can try and time it so that they all hit a single planet. If it impacts a planet before it splits apart, it just does the damage of that one. Similarly, you've also got this one, which is the remote-controlled MIRV, and this works similar to the MIRV, but like the bomb, you control when this splits apart by hitting X a second time. So that looks like this. That was a little bit hard to see because they were kind of right next to each other. Let me do one more. So you hit X again. And you see, you kind of get a little bit different of a pattern. You get like a starburst pattern out of that one. So that's a fun one to play around with. And then finally, the last one is the laser. Now the laser will fire a straight beam, which is not affected by gravity. And it can go through multiple planets and asteroids, but it does not go through the sun. So it's good for hitting like multiple planets in a row or for sniping another planet on the other side of the playfield. But for example, with this one here, I can't shoot it through the sun, so the laser is not really the best choice here. But just to demonstrate, so you see you just get blocked. But if I aim at this guy, let's see if I can do this here. It works like that. So you can get a nice hit from across the playfield if you don't want to deal with the orbital mechanics. So kind of a nice alternative method to shooting that way. And so that's all the weapons in the game. So you just go through until you manage to wipe out blue or orange. I just finished off this round here. See if I can get this guy. There we go. And then at the end of the game, you get a little stat screen, which is kind of cool. It just shows you the amount of damage that you did and accuracy and all that. Okay, so going back to the menu, if we go to options, you can see there's like a number of useful options here. The first one is the shot clock, and this can be set between 10 seconds and 60. 60 seconds is good for beginner players if you want a little bit more time to get used to the controls and sort of figure out what you're doing. And 10 seconds can be really fun if you want like a really fast, frenetic round with a friend. First turn by default is just random, but you can select either of blue or orange to go first. And this is useful for like in tournament play. If you're doing a system where like the person who lost the previous round goes first on the next round, you can set that here. Sudden death sets all the planet's HP to 1. So you get any hit will destroy a planet. And something I didn't mention earlier, but when the planet explodes, the particles from the shockwave also do a little bit of damage if they impact another planet. So with sudden death, you can have it set up to where you get these big chain reactions as one planet explodes and then the particles do damage to the planet next to them and so on. So that can be kind of fun. Black holes have the strongest gravity in the game, and I originally put this option in here because when I was testing the game, I found that having the black hole sometimes would make it difficult to test out like weapons and things like that. And then I just kind of left it in because I realized that this is useful for beginners as well. If you turn off the black holes, you don't have to deal with the strong gravity that they have and the way that it really forces you to use the orbital mechanics more. So it's just a handy option to have, I found. You can also turn asteroids on and off if you think they're getting in the way. And you can turn on and off the tooltips that are along the bottom. I find that after you play a few rounds, you don't really need to have the tooltips on anymore. And you can also turn off the tooltips from within the game by pressing Enter, and you can turn them off this way too. So that's just a handy way to do it without needing to exit the round. So that's the game. I hope you try it out and have fun, and let me know what you think.